I never thought silence could be louder than screaming. But the night I heard her whisper his name in her sleep, my brother's name, it wasn't just a word. It was the sound of everything I'd built crumbling in slow motion. Daniel. She breathed, her fingers curling into the sheets like she was reaching for him even in her dreams. My name is Marcus. I sat there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling like a ghost in my own bed. How long had this been happening? How many nights had I fallen asleep beside her, believing she was mine, while her heart wandered somewhere else, somewhere I could never follow? She didn't even know she'd said it. The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek like always, made coffee like always, smiled like always. But I couldn't unsee it. I couldn't unhear it. Daniel was my older brother. The charming one. The golden child. The man everyone admired. And apparently, the man my wife dreamed about. I could have confronted her. I could have raged. But instead, I made a decision that would change all of our lives forever. I didn't fight for her. I let go. And I let them have each other. Because sometimes, the cruelest revenge isn't destruction, it's permission. Everyone said we were perfect together. They said it at our wedding. They said it at dinner parties. They said it when we walked into a room holding hands, like we were proof that love could be simple, easy, uncomplicated. But love is never simple. And ours? It was a lie I didn't know I was living. We met at a charity gala 5 years ago. I remember the exact moment I saw her. She was standing near the grand piano, talking to someone I couldn't see, wearing a dress that shimmered like moonlight on water. Her laugh cut through the noise of the room, bright, melodic, impossible to ignore. I was nobody that night. Just another guy in a rented tux, uncomfortable in the borrowed confidence of formal wear. I worked with machines, with numbers, with things that made sense. She was a violinist. An artist. She saw the world like it was a song waiting to be played. I didn't think someone like her would even look at someone like me. But she did. She smiled when I made a terrible joke about engineering and sheet music. She let me buy her a drink. She held my hand when we danced, even though I had no idea what I was doing. "You're different," she said that night, her eyes soft in the dim light. "You make me feel safe." Safe. I held on to that word like it was a promise. So I married her. I gave her everything I had, my time, my heart, my future. I built a life around her, the way you build a house around a foundation you trust will never crumble. We bought a small place on the edge of town. It had a garden she loved, wild and overgrown in a way that felt romantic. Sunday mornings meant pancakes and old records spinning on the turntable. Quiet evenings meant her practicing violin in the living room while I sketched blueprints on the couch, the sound of her music filling the spaces between us. I thought we were happy. I thought happiness was supposed to feel like this, steady, comfortable, routine. But looking back now, I realize I was the only one who felt that way. She never looked at me the way she looked at him. Daniel. My brother. When he visited, something shifted in her. It was subtle at first, so subtle I told myself I was imagining it. Her eyes would light up in a way they never did for me. She'd laugh louder, stand a little closer, linger a little longer in conversations that didn't need to last as long as they did. "Daniel's so funny," she'd say after he left. "He gets me, you know." And I'd smile. I'd nod. I'd agree. Because I wanted them to get along. I wanted my wife and my brother to be friends. I thought that's what family was supposed to be. I told myself love wasn't a competition. I told myself I was being paranoid. But love doesn't lie in your sleep. And when she whispered his name that night, soft, tender, like a prayer, I finally understood. I had never been her first choice. I was just the safer one. The night it happened, we'd been lying in bed after another quiet evening. She'd curled into me the way she always did, her head on my chest, her breathing slowing into the rhythm of sleep. I was almost asleep too when I heard it. "Daniel." At first, I thought I'd imagined it. But then her fingers twitched against my ribs, and she said it again, softer this time, like she was reaching for him even in her dreams. "Daniel, stay." I didn't move. I couldn't. My heart was beating so loud I thought it would wake her, but she just sighed and settled deeper into sleep, oblivious to the fact that she'd just shattered everything. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling like a ghost in my own bed. How long had this been happening? How many nights had I fallen asleep beside her, believing she was mine, while her heart wandered somewhere else, somewhere I could never follow? In the morning, she woke up smiling. She kissed me on the cheek, made coffee like always, hummed while she poured cream into her mug. "Sleep well?" she asked, her voice light, easy, completely unaware. "Yeah," I lied. "You? Like a baby." I watched her sip her coffee, watched her scroll through her phone, watched her exist in a world where she hadn't just broken me. And I realized something. She didn't know. She had no idea what she'd said. No idea what she'd done. But I did. And I couldn't unhear it. I couldn't unsee the truth that had been hiding in plain sight all along. She didn't love me. Maybe she never had. Maybe I was just the man who made her feel safe while she dreamed of the man who made her feel alive. That morning, I poured my own coffee and sat across from her at the kitchen table. The sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the dust particles dancing in the air between us. It felt like a metaphor, all these tiny invisible things that had always been there, that I'd just never noticed before. She was scrolling through her phone, smiling at something on the screen. "What's so funny?" I asked, even though I didn't really want to know. "Oh, just something Daniel sent me," she said casually, not even looking up. "He's in Morocco now. Look at this sunset." She turned the phone toward me. The image was beautiful, orange and pink bleeding across the sky, the silhouette of a minaret in the distance. "Beautiful," I said. But I wasn't looking at the sunset. I was looking at the timestamp on the message. 6:47 a.m. He'd sent it to her first thing in the morning. Before he'd probably sent anything to anyone else. And she'd been waiting for it. "He has such an amazing life," she said, setting the phone down with a wistful sigh. "Always going somewhere new. Always experiencing something incredible." "You could do that too," I said quietly. "If you wanted." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and for a moment something flickered across her face. Guilt? Longing? I couldn't tell. "I have a life here," she said. "With you." But the way she said it, like it was an obligation, not a choice, made something inside me crack a little deeper. I finished my coffee in silence. She went back to her phone. And I sat there, watching my marriage dissolve in real time, wondering how long I'd been living in a story where I was never meant to be the main character. Just a supporting role in someone else's love story. And the worst part? I'd written myself into it willingly. Daniel wasn't just my brother. He was my hero. Growing up, I was the kid who hid behind books and took apart old radios just to see how they worked. I was quiet, awkward, the kind of boy who didn't know how to talk to people without fumbling over his words. Daniel was the opposite. He walked into rooms and made them brighter. He played guitar like he was born holding one. He told stories that made people cry, made them laugh, made them feel something they couldn't name. Our parents adored him. I don't blame them. He was easy to love. Friends flocked to him. Girls fell for him without him even trying. And me? I admired him. I wanted to be him. I remember being 14, watching him play at some local bar that didn't card too carefully. The way the crowd leaned in, hanging on every note, every word. I thought, that's what it means to matter. I never resented him for it. I just wanted to be close to that light, even if I could never create it myself. When I got older, Daniel left. He traveled the world like it owed him nothing, backpacking through Europe, teaching English in Thailand, writing poetry in hostels that smelled like cheap wine and adventure. He'd send postcards. Brief messages that somehow contained entire worlds. Barcelona is alive in ways I can't describe. Met a girl who paints with her fingers. Life is beautiful, little brother. I kept every single one. I stayed. I went to college. I became an engineer. I built a quiet, stable life that made sense on paper. And when I met her, when I fell in love, I finally felt like I had something that was mine. Something Daniel didn't have first. Something that belonged only to me. So when I introduced them at our wedding, I was proud. Look, I wanted to say. Look at the family I come from. Look at the brother I have. Look at what I've built. Daniel flew in from Budapest for the wedding. He showed up tanned and smiling, wearing a suit that somehow looked both expensive and effortless. He brought her a vintage violin bow he'd found in a Prague antique shop. "For the most beautiful violinist I've never heard play," he said, handing it to her with that signature smile. She blushed. Actually blushed. "You didn't have to do that," she said, turning it over in her hands like it was made of glass. "I wanted to," he said. "Marcus is lucky to have you." He shook my hand that day, pulled me into a hug, whispered in my ear, "Don't screw this up, little brother. She's amazing." And I believed him. I believed every word. I didn't notice the way his eyes lingered on her during the ceremony. I didn't notice how he watched her walk down the aisle with an expression I couldn't quite read. I didn't notice that when we all posed for photos, he always managed to be standing next to her. I didn't notice because I didn't want to. After the wedding, Daniel went back to his travels. But something had changed. He texted more. Called more. Always with some excuse. "Just checking in on you too. How's married life? Tell your wife I found that sheet music she mentioned." And she started bringing him up more and more. "Daniel's in town next week. Should we invite him over for dinner? Daniel sent me the funniest article today. Daniel thinks I should audition for that orchestra downtown. He says I'm good enough." I encouraged it. I thought it was sweet that they got along. I thought it meant I'd successfully blended the two most important parts of my life. I thought I was building a family. I didn't realize I was building my own betrayal. The first time I really saw them together, really saw them, was at a barbecue at our place about a year after the wedding. Daniel had come back from one of his trips, tanned and grinning, full of stories about some beach town in Portugal where he'd lived for 2 months. She sat next to him on the porch steps, her knees pulled up to her chest, listening like he was the only person in the world. I was inside, flipping burgers, watching them through the kitchen window. He said something. She laughed, really laughed, the kind of laugh that lit up her whole face, that made her lean into him like gravity was pulling her closer. And I realized, she never laughed like that with me. My jokes got polite chuckles. My stories got nods and, "That's nice, honey." But with Daniel? She came alive. I told myself it didn't mean anything. I told myself I was being insecure. But deep down, I knew. She didn't see me the way she saw him. And maybe she never would. Daniel left that night with a hug that lasted too long. She stood at the door, waving, smiling, her eyes bright in a way that made my chest ache. "He's great, isn't he?" she said, turning to me. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "He is." And I meant it. Because I still loved him. Even as I started to suspect the truth, I still loved him. That was the worst part. I couldn't hate him. I could only hate myself for not being enough. For not being him. It happened on a Tuesday. Nothing about that day felt significant. Nothing warned me that by the end of it, my entire world would crack open and spill everything I'd been pretending not to see. We'd gone out for dinner, a little Thai place we liked, the kind with mismatched chairs and Christmas lights strung year-round. She ordered pad thai. I ordered green curry. We talked about nothing important. Work. The weather. Whether we should repaint the kitchen that awful beige color the previous owners had left. It felt normal. It felt safe. She smiled at me across the table when I made a joke about my boss. She reached across and stole a bite of my curry. She looked happy. I thought, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I imagined everything. We came home around 9. The house smelled like the lavender candles she loved. We brushed our teeth side by side in the bathroom mirror, bumping elbows in that familiar choreography of cohabitation. We climbed into bed like we had 1,000 times before. She curled into me, her head on my chest, her arm draped across my stomach. Her breathing slowed, deepened, fell into the rhythm of sleep. I remember thinking, this is enough. I remember thinking, I'm happy. And then she said it. Daniel. The word was soft. Tender. Like a prayer whispered in the dark. At first, I thought I misheard. My mind must be playing tricks. I must be projecting my paranoia onto her sleeping murmurs. But then her lips moved again, barely a breath, and I heard it clear as glass shattering on concrete. Daniel, don't go. My heart didn't break. It stopped. I froze, every muscle in my body locking up like I'd been struck by lightning. Her hand rested on my ribs, her fingers twitching slightly, like she was reaching for him even in her sleep. Like she was trying to hold on to him. I wanted to wake her. I wanted to shake her and scream, who are you dreaming about? Who are you reaching for, ? But I didn't. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of her against me like an anchor dragging me under dark water. How long? How long had she been dreaming of him? How long had I been lying next to her, thinking she was mine, while her heart lived somewhere else entirely? Slowly, carefully, I pulled away. She stirred, mumbled something I couldn't make out, then rolled over, taking the blanket with her. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my hands in the dark. They were shaking. The clock on the nightstand read 2:47 a.m. The house was silent except for her breathing, deep, peaceful, completely unaware. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I just sat there, watching her, wondering who the woman beside me really was. She looked peaceful. Beautiful. Her hair spread across the pillow like dark water. Her lips slightly parted. Completely unaware that she'd just destroyed me. Had she dreamed of him before? How many times had she whispered his name into the darkness while I slept, oblivious? Had she ever whispered mine? When the sun started to rise, painting the bedroom in shades of grey and gold, I still hadn't moved. I felt like a statue. Like something carved from stone, hollow and cold. In the morning, she woke up smiling. She stretched, yawned, reached for me with that sleepy affection that used to make me feel like the luckiest man alive. "Morning," she said, her voice soft and sleepy. She kissed me on the cheek, her lips warm. "Did you sleep okay?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and for a moment, I thought about telling her. About asking her who she'd been dreaming about. About demanding the truth. But I didn't. Because I was afraid. Afraid that if I asked, she'd tell me. And then I'd have to face what I already knew. "Yeah," I said, my voice rough. "I slept fine." She smiled, oblivious, and got up to make coffee. And I sat there, alone in our bed, feeling like I'd already lost her. Because I had. She just didn't know it yet. The smell of coffee drifted into the bedroom. I could hear her humming in the kitchen, some melody I didn't recognize. Maybe something Daniel had played for her once. I got dressed slowly, mechanically, like I was moving through water. When I walked into the kitchen, she was leaning against the counter, scrolling through her phone, that small smile playing at her lips. "Coffee's ready," she said without looking up. I poured myself a cup and sat at the table, watching her. She was wearing one of my old college shirts, her hair messy, her feet bare on the cold tile floor. She looked like my wife. But she felt like a stranger. "What are you looking at?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Oh, just Instagram," she said. Then, as if she couldn't help herself, Daniel posted photos from Iceland. "Look how gorgeous." She turned the phone toward me. I glanced at the screen, glacier and waterfalls and Daniel's smiling face against impossible landscapes. "Beautiful," I said flatly. She didn't notice my tone. She was too busy staring at the screen, that wistful look in her eyes that used to be reserved for me. "I've always wanted to go to Iceland," she said quietly. "I could take you," I offered, even though I knew it didn't matter. She looked up at me, and for just a second, I saw something flicker across her face. Pity? Guilt? "Maybe someday," she said. But we both knew someday meant never. Not with me, anyway. I started paying attention after that night. And once you start looking, you can't stop seeing. Every small thing became evidence. Every glance, every smile, every moment of distraction built into an undeniable truth I'd been avoiding for months. Maybe years. The way she checked her phone at breakfast and smiled at messages she wouldn't show me. The way she took a little longer getting ready when she knew Daniel was coming over, choosing her outfit more carefully, adding that extra touch of makeup she usually skipped. The way her voice softened, when she said his name. It was everywhere. And I'd been blind to it. I started making excuses to check on her. Not in obvious ways. I wasn't going to be that husband. But I'd notice when she left her laptop open, when her phone sat unattended on the counter, when she stepped into the shower and left everything behind. One night, she fell asleep on the couch while we were watching a movie. Some romantic drama she'd picked. She was curled up with her head on a pillow, her phone still clutched loosely in her hand, the screen still glowing. I told myself not to look. I told myself I was better than that. But I wasn't. I carefully took the phone from her hand. She didn't stir. Her messages were open. Hundreds of them. All from him. I scrolled through, my hands shaking, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it might wake her. The messages went back months. Maybe longer. I miss talking to you. Marcus doesn't understand me like you do. Sometimes I wonder what life would be like if things were different. Do you ever think about that night at the wedding? When we danced and you told me about Barcelona? And from Daniel. Asterisk, you deserve to be happy. Asterisk. Asterisk, he's lucky to have you. I hope he knows that. Asterisk. Asterisk, I'll always be here for you. Always. Asterisk. Asterisk, you're the most beautiful person I know. Inside and out. Asterisk. I felt sick. Not because they'd crossed a line, not yet, anyway, but because they were dancing right on it, towing the edge of something that would destroy everything if they fell. And maybe that was worse. There was nothing explicit. Nothing I could screenshot and use as proof in some dramatic confrontation. No smoking gun. No declaration of love. Just tone. Just subtext. Just the feeling that I was reading a love story that didn't include me. I put the phone down carefully, exactly where I'd found it, and walked outside. The air was cold. November had arrived with sharp teeth. It bit at my skin, but I welcomed it. I stood in the driveway, staring up at the stars, trying to breathe. Trying to think. Trying to figure out what to do with this knowledge that was eating me alive from the inside. I could have confronted her. I could have woken her up right then, shoved the phone in her face, and demanded answers. I could have called Daniel. I could have burned it all down. But I didn't. Because deep down, I already knew the truth. She didn't love me. Maybe she never had. And Daniel? He didn't steal her. He didn't seduce her away from me with some elaborate plan. She gave herself to him long before I ever noticed. Little pieces at a time. A text here. A laugh there. A dream in the middle of the night. Until there was nothing left for me. When I came back inside, she was still asleep on the couch, looking peaceful. Innocent. I covered her with a blanket and went to bed alone. The next morning, she woke up and found me in the kitchen. Did I fall asleep on the couch? She asked, stretching. Yeah, I said. I didn't want to wake you. You're sweet, she said, kissing my cheek as she passed by to get coffee. Sweet. I used to love when she called me that. Now it felt like an insult. Over the next few weeks, I kept watching. I couldn't help myself. I noticed that she smiled more on days when Daniel texted. I noticed that she sometimes took her phone into the bathroom with her, or stepped outside to take a call that she never mentioned afterward. I noticed that when we had sex, she closed her eyes. She used to keep them open. Used to look at me like I was everything. Now she closed them. And I wondered who she was seeing instead. One Saturday, Daniel came over for lunch. She'd invited him, of course. She always did. She made his favorite, grilled chicken with that lemon marinade she'd learned specifically for him. She laughed at all his stories about Prague, about teaching English to kids who barely spoke a word, about the woman he'd met in a cafe who wrote novels by hand in leather journals. Sounds like you're living the dream, she said, and there was something in her voice, longing, maybe. Or regret. It has its moments, Daniel said, glancing at me. But so does staying in one place. Building something real. Right, she said, but she didn't sound convinced. After lunch, I watched them from the kitchen window as they walked through the garden together. She showed him the roses she'd been trying to grow. He said something that made her laugh, that bright, full laugh that used to be mine. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. She let him. And I knew. I finally knew. It didn't matter if they'd kissed. It didn't matter if they'd slept together. They were already in love. They just hadn't admitted it yet. And I was just the obstacle in their way. I made my choice on a Sunday morning. The house was quiet. Sunlight filtered through the kitchen window, warm and golden, the kind of light that makes everything look softer than it really is. The kind of light that lies. She was in the garden, trimming roses, wearing one of my old shirts. It hung loose on her frame, the sleeves rolled up to her elbows. Her phone was in her back pocket. I could see the screen light up every few minutes. Messages coming in. I didn't have to look to know who they were from. She pulled out the phone, read something, and smiled. That smile. The one that used to belong to me. She typed something back, her thumbs moving quickly, then slipped the phone back into her pocket and went back to the roses, humming under her breath. I stood at the window, watching her, and felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Not even betrayal anymore. Just a strange, hollow clarity. Like waking up from a dream and realizing it was never real. I didn't want to fight for someone who dreamed of someone else. I didn't want to be the man she settled for while she fantasized about the man she really wanted. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life competing with my own brother for scraps of affection from a woman who would never truly choose me. So I decided I would let her go. But not with tears. Not with screaming matches or broken dishes or demands for explanations. I would let her have him. Cleanly. Quietly. With the kind of dignity she'd never given me. I called Daniel that afternoon. She'd gone to the grocery store, or at least, that's what she'd said. I suspected she was meeting him for coffee, but I didn't ask. I didn't care anymore. "Hey," I said when he picked up, keeping my voice steady, even. "I need to talk to you." There was a pause. Music in the background. He was probably at some cafe, living his effortlessly cool life. "Sure," he said. "Everything okay? Let's meet." "When?" "Now." Another pause. Longer this time. "Okay. Where?" "We met at a bar downtown. The same one we used to go to when we were younger, back when everything felt simpler. Back when I thought we were just brothers, and that meant something permanent and unbreakable." He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table, nursing a whiskey. He looked good. He always looked good. Tan from whatever exotic place he'd just been. Hair slightly too long in that way that looked intentional. He stood when he saw me. "Marcus. You okay?" I didn't answer. I just sat down. He ordered another whiskey. I ordered water. He looked at me, confused, concerned. Playing the role of the caring brother. "What's going on?" he asked. I took a breath. Looked him in the eye. "I know," I said simply. His face went pale. "Just slightly. Just enough." "Know what?" "About you and her." The color drained from his face completely now. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Looked down at his drink. "Marcus, I'm not going to fight you," I interrupted. My voice was calm. Cold. Like I was talking about the weather. "I'm not going to make this ugly. But I'm done." "Done with what?" "With her. With this. With pretending." He stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Like I was speaking a language he didn't understand. "You can't just." "I can," I said. "And I am." "Marcus, nothing happened between us." "It doesn't matter," I said, cutting him off again. "It doesn't matter if you kissed her or not. It doesn't matter if you slept with her or not. You're in love with her. She's in love with you. And I'm done being the idiot who stands in the way." He looked genuinely shocked. "She's not, we're not." "Don't lie to me," I said quietly. "Not now. Not about this." He fell silent. Stared into his glass. "I'm leaving," I continued. "And when I do, she's going to need someone. That someone might as well be you. You can't just walk away from your marriage. Watch me." He looked up at me, and for the first time in our lives, I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Fear. "You always wanted what I had, Daniel," I said, standing up. "Now you can have it." I dropped cash on the table, enough for both drinks, and looked at him one last time. "Be good to her," I said. "Or don't. I don't really care anymore." And I walked out. The cold air hit me like freedom. I felt lighter than I had in months. Maybe years. Because I'd finally stopped fighting for something that was never really mine to begin with. I didn't tell her I was leaving. Not at first. I started small, methodical, like I was working on one of my engineering projects. Breaking down a complex problem into manageable steps. I moved money into a separate account. Not all of it, I wasn't cruel, but enough to start over. Enough to build a new life. I looked at apartments across town. Small places. Studios. One-bedrooms with decent light and no memories attached. I boxed up the things that mattered, my tools, my books, a photo of my parents on their wedding day. My grandfather's watch. The drafting pencils I'd used in college. I left everything she'd given me. The sweater from our second Christmas. The coffee mug with "World's Best Husband" printed on it in cheerful letters that now felt like mockery. The framed photo of us on our honeymoon. She didn't notice. She was too busy texting him. I'd watch her sometimes, sitting on the couch with her phone in her hands, smiling at the screen. Lost in a conversation I wasn't part of. Living in a world where I'd already stopped existing. It took me 3 weeks to plan everything. 3 weeks of living like a ghost in my own home. Going through the motions. Saying, "Good morning," and "How was your day," and "I love you" out of habit, not feeling. She never noticed the difference. When I finally told her, it was over breakfast. A Tuesday morning. The kitchen was filled with the smell of coffee and toast. Sun streaming through the window. Birds singing outside. Everything looked perfect. She was scrolling through her phone, half smiling at something on the screen. Probably him. "I'm leaving," I said quietly. She looked up, confused. "Leaving? Where? Do you have a work trip?" "No," I said. "Leaving. For good." The coffee mug slipped from her hand. It shattered on the floor, brown liquid spreading across the white tiles like a wound opening up. "What?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "What do you mean?" "I mean I'm leaving you. I'm leaving this marriage. I'm done." "Marcus, what? Why? I don't understand." "You said his name in your sleep," I said, my voice still calm, still steady. "Daniel's name. And you didn't even realize it." Her face went white. Completely white. "That was I didn't. I know about the texts," I continued. "I know about the phone calls. I know about the way you look at him. The way you smile when he messages you. The way you come alive when he's around in a way you never do with me. Marcus, we never." "It doesn't matter," I said. "It doesn't matter if you kissed him. It doesn't matter if you slept with him. You love him. Maybe you've always loved him. And I'm tired of pretending that's okay." She was crying now. Silent tears running down her face. "I do love you," she said, her voice breaking. "Marcus, I do." "No," I said quietly. "You don't. You love the safety I give you. You love the stability. You love the idea of me. But you don't love *me*. Not the way you love him." "That's not true. You said his name in your sleep," I repeated. "Not mine. His." She had no answer for that. I stood up, picked up my keys from the counter, and looked at her one last time. She looked broken. Confused. Like she couldn't understand how we'd gotten here. But I understood perfectly. "You can have him," I said. "You clearly want him. So take him. I'm not going to stand in your way." "Marcus, please." "I'm not angry," I said. And I meant it. I'm just done. I'm done fighting for someone who doesn't choose me. I'm done being second place in my own marriage. "You're not?" "I am," I said. "And we both know it." I walked toward the door. She didn't follow. I waited for a moment, giving her one last chance. One last opportunity to stop me, to fight for us, to choose me. But she didn't move. She just stood there in the kitchen, surrounded by broken ceramic and spilled coffee, crying silent tears that were probably more about guilt than loss. And that told me everything I needed to know. I walked out the door, closed it gently behind me, got in my car and drove away without looking back. The apartment I'd found was small but clean. Empty walls. Bare floors. No history. It was perfect. I spent the first night sitting on the floor, eating takeout Chinese food straight from the container, feeling lighter than I had in years. My phone buzzed. Multiple times. Messages from her. Marcus, please come home. We can work this out. I'm sorry. I love you. I didn't respond. I just turned off my phone and stared at the empty walls and thought about all the space I now had to build something new. Something real. Something mine. They got together 3 months after I left. I heard it through a mutual friend, Sarah, who'd been at our wedding, who'd always liked me more than she liked her anyway. "I thought you should know," Sarah said over coffee. She looked uncomfortable, guilty even, like she was delivering news of a death. "They're together. Daniel and her. It's official." I sipped my coffee. It was good coffee. Much better than the stuff I used to make at home. "Okay," I said. Sarah blinked. "That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say?" "I don't know." I expected anger? Pain? Something? I smiled. "I'm not angry. I'm not hurt. I'm just done." "You're taking this really well." "Because I knew it was coming," I said. "This didn't surprise me. This was always going to happen. I just stepped out of the way." Sarah studied my face like she was trying to find cracks in the facade. But there weren't any. I was fine. Better than fine, actually. I was free. The first month after leaving was strange. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, reaching for someone who wasn't there, before remembering that I'd chosen this. But the second month was easier. And by the third month, I'd stopped reaching. I moved into a small apartment downtown. It had floor-to-ceiling windows that faced east, so every morning the sun would flood the space with golden light. It had bare brick walls and old hardwood floors that creaked when you walked. It felt nothing like the house I'd shared with her. It felt like mine. I started going to the gym. Not obsessively, but regularly. I needed to do something with all the energy I'd been spending on worrying about a marriage that was already over. I took up woodworking. Found a community workshop that rented space and tools. Started making things with my hands, tables, chairs, small sculptures that didn't need to serve a purpose beyond existing. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with. Alex, who I'd known since college. Sam, who'd moved across the country but was now back in town. People I'd stopped seeing because she'd always had some reason we couldn't make it to their parties or dinners. I stopped checking her social media. Stopped wondering what they were doing. Stopped caring who knew what about the divorce. Because here's the thing about letting go, it's not about them anymore. It's about you. I started designing again, not blueprints for buildings, but furniture. Real pieces. Art. Things I could create with my hands that would outlive me. I sold my first piece after 2 months. A coffee table made from reclaimed wood, with brass inlays I'd hammered in myself. A young couple bought it for their first apartment. It's beautiful, the woman said, running her hand over the smooth surface. You can feel the love in it. And I realized, I was building love into things again. Just not for her. And then I met Claire. It was accidental. Completely unplanned. I was at a gallery opening, one of those free wine and cheese things that Sarah had dragged me to because you need to get out more. Claire was there taking photos. She was a photographer, documenting the exhibition for the artist. She had dark curly hair pulled back in a messy bun, paint-stained jeans, and glasses that kept sliding down her nose. She wasn't wearing makeup. She didn't need to. She looked real. Sorry, she said, nearly backing into me while framing a shot. Occupational hazard. I get tunnel vision when I'm shooting. No problem, I said. She lowered her camera and looked at me. Really looked at me. Not through me. Not past me to see who else was in the room. At me. You're not an artist, she said. I laughed. That obvious. You're standing comfortably, she said. Artists at their own shows always look like they're about to bolt. I'm just here with a friend. Same, she said. Then, extending her hand, Claire. Marcus. We talked for an hour. About photography, about woodworking, about how we'd both ended up at this gallery on a random Thursday night. She didn't ask if I was married. She didn't look for a ring. She just talked to me like I was a person worth knowing. When the gallery closed, we walked out together. There's a diner around the corner, she said. They make terrible coffee but excellent pie. Want to continue this conversation? I did. We talked until 3 in the morning. About everything. About nothing. And when I finally walked her to her car, she looked at me with those clear, honest eyes and said, I'd like to see you again. Not as a question. As a statement. I'd like that too, I said. She didn't kiss me that night. She just smiled and drove away. But I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Chosen. Not because I was safe. Not because I was convenient. But because someone actually wanted me. Over the next few months, Claire and I fell into an easy rhythm. Coffee on Saturday mornings. Gallery visits. Long walks through the city. Cooking dinner together in her tiny kitchen that barely fit 2 people. She didn't look at me like I was second place. She looked at me like I was the whole damn prize. And slowly, carefully, I let myself believe her. A year later, I got a call from Daniel. I almost didn't answer. His name on my phone screen felt like a ghost. A remnant of a life I'd left behind. But curiosity got the better of me. Marcus, he said when I picked up. His voice was tight, strained. Nothing like the easy, confident brother I'd known my whole life. Can we talk? I almost said no. But something in his tone made me pause. About what? Please, he said. Just, coffee. 1 hour. That's all I'm asking. I looked at Claire, who was sitting across from me on the couch, reading a book with her feet tucked under her. She looked up, sensing my hesitation. It's Daniel, I mouthed. She raised her eyebrows but didn't say anything. She trusted me to make my own decisions. Okay, I said into the phone. 1 hour. We met at the same bar where I'd let him go a year ago. Full circle. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at the same corner table, but he looked different. Older. tired. The golden shimmer that used to surround him had dimmed. He looked like someone who'd lost something important and didn't know how to get it back. "Marcus," he said, standing. He looked like he wanted to hug me but didn't dare. I sat down. "You said 1 hour. Clock's ticking." He winced. Sat down across from me. "How are you?" he asked. "Good," I said. And I meant it. Really good, actually. "I heard you're seeing someone." "I am." That's good. You deserve that." I didn't respond. I just waited. He took a long drink of his whiskey. His hands were shaking slightly. "She's not happy," he finally said. I raised an eyebrow. "And that's my problem." "No. I thought you should know." "Why?" He looked down at his drink. "She talks about you. All the time. About what she lost. About what a mistake she made." "That's unfortunate," I said flatly. "She says I'm not?" He trailed off. "She says I'm not you." I almost laughed. "Ironic," I said. He looked up at me, and I saw genuine pain in his eyes. Pain I'd felt a year ago. Pain I'd carried until I finally learned to let it go. "I thought I loved her," he said quietly. "I thought we had something real. But she doesn't love me. She loves the idea of me. The fantasy. The adventure. And now that she has me, now that I'm real and here and not some distant dream, it's not enough." "Welcome to my world," I said, my voice cold. "I'm sorry," he said. "For everything." Don't," I interrupted. "Don't apologize. You did me a favor." He looked confused. "What?" "You showed me the truth," I said. "You showed me that I was living a lie. That I was settling for someone who was never going to choose me. You did me a favor by being exactly who you are." "Marcus. I'm happy now," I said. "Actually happy. With someone who chooses me every single day. Not because I'm safe or convenient, but because she actually wants me." He looked like I'd slapped him. "So thank you," I continued. "Thank you for taking her off my hands. Thank you for showing me that I deserve better." "What do I do?" he asked, his voice desperate. "How do I fix this?" I stood up. Dropped cash on the table. Looked him in the eye. "You let her go," I said. "Just like I did." "But I love her." "No," I said. "You love the idea of winning. You love the idea of having what I had. But you don't love her. Not really. And she doesn't love you. She loves the fantasy she built in her head. And fantasies always disappoint when they become reality." I turned to leave. "Marcus," he called after me. "I'm sorry. Really." I paused at the door. Looked back at him one last time. "I know," I said. "But it doesn't matter anymore." And I walked out. The night air was cold and crisp. Fall turning into winter. The city lights sparkled around me. I pulled out my phone and texted Claire. Done. Heading home. Want to order pizza? Her response came immediately. Already ordered. Your usual. See you soon. Red heart **. I smiled. And walked toward my car, toward my life, toward my future. I never heard from either of them again. No calls. No texts. No dramatic confrontations or pleas for forgiveness. Just silence. And that silence was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. Because it meant I'd finally moved on. Not by getting revenge. Not by making them suffer. But by choosing myself. By building a life that didn't include them. By finding someone who saw me not as a safe harbor or a convenient option, but as everything. 6 months later, Claire moved into my apartment. A year after that, I proposed. Not at some fancy restaurant or picturesque location. Just on a random Tuesday morning, in our kitchen, over coffee and toast, in the middle of a conversation about nothing important. "Marry me," I said. She looked up from her coffee, surprised. "What? Marry me," I repeated. "Not because it's logical. Not because it makes sense. But because I choose you. Every day. And I want to keep choosing you for the rest of my life." She was crying and laughing at the same time. "Yes," she said. "God, yes. We got married in a small ceremony. Just close friends. No family drama. No complicated history. Just love. Simple, honest, real love. The kind I'd always deserved but hadn't known to ask for. Sometimes I still think about that night. The night she whispered his name in her sleep. And I think about how differently things could have gone. I could have fought. I could have screamed. I could have destroyed everything in my path. But instead, I chose silence. I chose dignity. I chose myself. And in the end, that was the greatest revenge of all. Not destroying them, but building something beautiful without them.